I have graduated from VFX school in 2022, which doesn't really mean much. That's what he says in quotes, not me. And after that, I have worked as a junior modeling and texturing artist in a small studio for 14 months. I haven't had a 3D related job for a year now, which has made me question my skills a bit and definitely affected my motivation. My goals would still be to work in the film industry, but I have had to think about other options as well. Yeah. So let's have a look at his portfolio. Well, firstly, right off the bat, the fact he's questioning his skills, I don't think is good because I think his work is good. I don't need to worry about that at all, right? I think his modeling and stuff is all really good. I like that everything's kind of like presented like we kind of would expect in VFX, right? We have like proper turntables and stuff like that. So that's all very cool. Yeah, man, your modeling's all good. You don't have to worry about that at all. I think you're totally solid. I think like with the current climate of the industry, I don't think I get motivation is definitely down with people, but I wouldn't question your ability. It's just the current climate of the industry is pretty crazy at the moment. But it will get back to normal eventually. But as far as like the work goes, it's all very, very good. I personally might have different opinions about like, I mean, if we're going to be nitpicky, I would personally just continue these edges this way and not worry about redirecting. But as a whole, like everything's pretty good. Yeah, the presentation's all nice. I mean, this is not too big of a deal, but it's kind of a little frustrating, have to constantly pause everything to look at everything this way. But in saying that, I don't think there's anything I would change personally. It is kind of nice. Yeah, the modeling's all really, really cool. Everything's pretty efficient. Everything's pretty detailed. Did you model this in? Holy shit. Fair enough. Okay. I think this is executed pretty well though. The fact that he's limited all of this topology to just one area without letting it go too crazy and keeping it very contained. I think this is very good. This part's gonna look crazy when it subdivides though. But I mean, if that's what you need to do. What I would personally probably do in this situation, see how, for example, this here is like a separate rim. I probably would have just faked this. Actually, I don't even know it's faked. I think it probably would be like this. So what I probably would do, I would have just continued the outside like normal, just your standard topology. And then all of this topology you wouldn't have to worry about because this would be a separate piece of geo like sitting behind it. So I would have had the body just extend to this area and then just have this as an independent piece of geo. And then you wouldn't have had to do any of this at all. The way you execute though is not bad though, but I would probably just have made my life a bit easier and just not had to worry about any of this at all. I had a few little like thoughts on like the presentation and stuff like that and like what to do next. But I think like as a whole, you definitely shouldn't worry about like lack of skill because I think you're clearly industry ready and you've worked in the industry for a bit, so it makes sense. All right, these UVs kind of confused me a bit. Okay, so all right, since this is here, let's talk about this. I don't know if this is just this way purely for displaying it or if they actually are this way because this is kind of strange. Usually the idea is you would have your like left and then right directly on top of the other UDIM. So it means like, say for example, you had like 30 UDIMs of just left and right. What you could do is you could just delete one side, grab, say for example, we have like left here, right here, left here, right here, for example. You could just delete one side of the vehicle, duplicate your left to right, and then you grab every single UDIM on your new right side, and you just press up on the keyboard once, and every single UDIM would just lock into place of where you need it, right? But if you have your left and right so separate like this, it kind of is a bit strange. So I probably would have just had the left and right above here and then had the center up here like you do. But as far as like the UVs themselves go, they're all cool. I just would have just put this down here essentially and just made your life a bit easier. The good old Macbeth charts when we're not matching any reference. But yeah, the presentation's all good. This is kind of like, aside from Macbeth charts, but this is kind of what I was saying was missing from the review of like last review from the last portfolio was like this sort of presentation, which is kind of what it's expected in the VFX industry, just like nice clean turntables on like a gray background. Like it's very neutral. There's nothing crazy, no black and white background, stuff like that. It's just very neutral to the point. Like this is what we would kind of expect at work, which is all very cool. And then you have your close-ups and stuff, which is nice. Yeah, the wipes and stuff are cool with the checker texture and stuff. Yeah, all the UVs are all flowing the same direction. Oh, this piece here, I don't know about this, man. I don't know, this piece here is a bit of a different scale to the rest. Be careful about this sort of stuff, right? Like once again, if you're showing off your UV checker, you got to make sure everything is consistent, right? Or like I'm going to notice it instantly. And a lot of people will as well. So yeah, be careful about this. Motorbike is cool. I always think a motorbike is a good choice. Yeah, all the topology is all clean and smooth. What was the black dot? Oh, having a missing frame isn't the best. This one doesn't have it, does it? Oh, it does. I don't know if that's an ArtStation thing. I assume it is, because it wouldn't be good to have a missing frame at the very end. But yeah, this is why I usually think doing a motorbike is a good idea for a modeling piece, because you have such a variety of like forms you get to deal with, which is all very cool. I really like the Super Cobra though. The only thing I don't really like about the presentation is the fact that the tail is swinging out of the frame. I feel with this sort of stuff, you should always make sure your asset stays contained within the border of the thing, unless you're obviously doing like a close-up renders, right? If you're doing close-up renders like this, it makes sense. Obviously, most of it's going to be out of the frame. But if you're showing a turntable like this, I feel you need to keep the full asset within the turntable. Another thing, it's a minor thing, but I kind of feel like if you're doing a presentation like this, you might as well just have the full frame range and not have the stepping with your turntable. Just keep it like a nice, clean, consistent turntable, because you already have them, right? Like your other vehicles have consistent, smooth turntables, if I remember correctly. Yeah, like this. This is kind of what I meant. This to me looks more professional than having just like a choppy turntable. And I feel like there's no rush, so you might as well just do the full frame range. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about, how like, for example, the full asset is contained within the frame. It's the full, it's all the frames. There's nothing missing. What was that? Maybe it's just an ArtStation thing. Oh, what's that? Oh man, be careful about this. I found a random frame where you have your wireframe suddenly turns on for a second. I mean, it's not like this is going to stop you from getting a job or something, but it's just something to keep in mind, right? If you have like random stuff like this, it just kind of comes across to a degree as like, does this person not have like a good eye, or could they just not be bothered to fix the issue? It's not going to stop you getting a job or anything like that, but I feel it's always good to just come like your best foot forward, right? But yeah, the fact that there's just a single frame of the wireframe for no reason. It's a nice model though, I like it. It's a cool asset. So then this one has a single frame of, it goes back a frame? Interesting. So yeah, the last frame of this one, it steps backwards. I bet he didn't expect me to look at this sort of stuff. But yeah, this is just something small to keep in mind. But yeah, once again, I want to stress, like, this is not going to be like what doesn't get you a job or anything like that. But I mean, like, if you notice like small issues like this, it's always better just to go back and resolve it and just make sure you come forward with your best foot forward, right? The asset itself is cool though. I have no issue with the asset. One thing I did kind of want to mention though is the fact that, so I think it's very, very good to build from the real world, but I feel like he's done it 3 times now. I think what I would like to see, like if he was to do another personal piece, what I would like to see is something from a concept now, because he's shown easily 100% that he can match what we need to, like that's all good. He's ticked that box. It would be cool to see his like artistic problem solving now. So I think if he was to do like another portfolio piece, it would be good to do something from concept. Like it can still be a vehicle, but something from concept instead. Maybe even like a robot, because obviously he has 3 vehicles already. So maybe like a robot from concept, I think would be a good piece to add to his portfolio. Because I think he's absolutely nailed the helicopter. I'm not a texture artist, so I can't really talk too much about the textures, but as far as like the model goes, I think he's nailed all this. I like his close-ups. I think the close-ups are very cool. I think if you're going to make an asset, you should really really show it off. So this is nice. But yeah, man, 100%. Like, don't be concerned. Like, don't beat yourself up about your quality of work, man. Your work is great. Like, I wouldn't do this any better. Like, this is all very good, man. Don't think you shouldn't be in the industry just because of the current climate, right? Like, I would gladly work with you for sure, because this is all very good. Everything is clean, consistent. It's very, very good. Oh, there it is. Is that it? Fucking hell. Okay. Okay. Yeah, man, even more, if it's this small, I would have just cheated. Well, not cheated it. I would have just done it the other way I was talking about. But yeah, props to modeling it in. I would have probably done it a little bit easier though. Yeah, my only thing would be, it would be nice if like this part of the fuselage just was closer to this part of the fuselage. The screws are texture, not all of them. I think the main rivets are model. Yeah, so I think, okay, what I think he's done is the correct way of doing it, where your main rivets are modeled, but your more finer sub rivets are texture. So this is usually what we probably would do. Like, we wouldn't bother modeling in these rivets here, but these ones I would model, the larger ones. Like, I don't think he should worry about, worrying about his skill set, because he has executed this how I would expect to execute this. Like I'm saying, like knowing when something should be model and when something should be texture, and not going too far the other way in each direction, I think is a very important skill to have, because there's plenty of people which over model and there's plenty of people that don't model enough. And I feel like this is the perfect balance of leaning into model or texture. Is that just an effort cost awareness thing? Yeah, it's just about knowing where things are better suited. Like, some things are better suited for texture and some things are better suited for model. Because like doing these sorts of larger rivets are not bad. They're pretty easy. You can do it quite quickly. But then having to do all the minor rivets as well in model is just a bit too much. Maybe a silly question, but where do people go to set up their model presentation like this, like wireframe over shade transitions? I'm pretty sure it's just different rendered. It's like different rendered images, and they just wipe over it with, like you said, After Effects or something like that. Because it's essentially just multiple images that are just wiping over each other. Yeah, like you would just have this would essentially just be like maybe 4 renders, right? You have your colored render. You might have, so for example, if you had like like this one, you could just render out the wireframe and then just use overlay in Photoshop or something, and then overlay the wireframe on top of the colored render, the textured render, I mean, and that would be this frame here. And then you have your gray model, and it would just be wipes in whatever video editing software you want to use. No, it's not made in engine or anything. This sort of stuff is entirely like post-production sort of stuff. But yeah, this is like a nice presentation. Like it's cool to show everything like this, I think. But yeah, someone hire this person. Like they deserve a job for sure. I've definitely seen much worse models in the film industry before. All right, UVs. I'm going to question this again. I mean, this is a lot of UDIMs as well, by the way. I'm kind of surprised it's this many UDIMs. This is a very high-res asset. But the main thing I'm kind of curious about, it's like splitting up between left, center, and right is good. That's what I would recommend. What I probably would do is kind of what I'm talking about, where, I mean, I guess it is personal preference. It's essentially the same thing. He duplicates left to right, grabs all of the UDIMs, and then just presses up like 7 times or whatever to get these UDIMs up to here. But if you alternate between left, right, like this way, you can essentially just duplicate left to right, grab all your UDIMs, and then press up once, and everything just pops into place. And it's also good kind of literally knowing every single UDIM below the current UDIM is like the left and right. So that is, useful, but it's personal preference, right? He's the one texturing it. Some texture artists might request this sort of layout. Me personally, I just like doing left, right, left, right. But I like these, he's labeling the UDIMs, which is cool. I like this sort of stuff. Manually place screws and bolts, mash by hand. That's cool. I don't think you necessarily have to show this, but it's cool. It doesn't bother me at all. The naming convention, I don't necessarily agree with this direction, but if it works for him, it works for him. I would usually in every studio I've worked for, the left, center, and right is always at the front of the thing. And you don't really need the full name of the asset in every single group, right? So I probably would have had like Bell underscore AH underscore IW, 1W. I don't know what that means, but I would have had that as the top group. But then within that just had like left, center, right. Because there's no point of having the name lots of times. But yeah, this is cool. I like seeing this sort of stuff. Like showing like articulation, I think is very cool. I think this also kind of shows that you're thinking about this more than just like a bunch of pretty renders, right? Like this shows like this is a functioning asset. You've tested how things can move and articulate. So I think if you can show this stuff, it's very cool. Like I don't know if you probably noticed, but in my, like for example, you had my my plane I was working on. I had all the groups animated so I could test articulation and stuff. If you already have that stuff animated, then sure, why not show it off, right? Show that your things can move correctly, like you've built this correctly so that the hinges work and stuff like that. I don't think there's a point of showing reference. Like there's nothing I can really gain from looking at this. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but there's nothing someone can really gain from just looking at your reference board, right? Especially if it's like so small. But yeah, their work is very cool. I don't think they need to worry at all about, you know, if they're good enough. They're definitely good enough. If you just want to kind of balance the portfolio out a bit more, you don't necessarily even have to, but like what would be kind of nice would be seeing like your problem solving from concept. And I think that's the only thing that's kind of missing from the folio. Because like these two are essentially kind of the same. The aircraft and the plane are very, very similar to each other. Motorbike is always cool. But I feel like what would be nice now would be to have like a concept being resolved, like of like a robot or something like that. Something that's a bit more different to these two. And just show your problem solving skills. Because you can obviously match one-to-one. Your topology is all good. Presentation's all good, aside from the minor things I mentioned. And yeah, man, like keep your head up, man. You definitely deserve a job, 100%. I wouldn't worry about your skills at all. I would happily work with you for sure.